So in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to the fellows because honestly, I want the fellows to take up the most room here because their work is incredible. But I wanted to just take a little bit of time to look at Jewish text and think about the importance of what we're about to do together. So in the book of Judges, we meet Deborah, who was a military leader, a mediator, a prophet, and a poet. And after Deborah's victory against Jabin, the king of Canaan, and his general Sisera, who had been oppressing the Israelites for 20 years, we find a poem that Deborah sings, which is a recount of what happened in battle. But it's remembered through the refraction of Deborah's memory. So through the poem, Deborah gets to claim how her story is remembered, putting herself and the other women at the center of the story. We see this type of thing again in Exodus, after the crossing of the Red Sea, when the Israelites escape from their Egyptian oppressors. We find another poetic text. So alongside Moses' song is Miriam's song, which recounts her crossing the Red Sea. So you see, there's a rich history of not only creating change making through a heroic battle, through crossing a body of water from slavery to freedom, or in our case, making change, responding to issues related to sexism, but also telling the story of our work. And this is an important, really important part of activism and leadership. To ensure our story gets told, we need to tell it. And to tell our stories, we need an audience to witness and receive it and to hear about the change making that we did. So here we are today on this Zoom, storytellers, activists, and an audience. So let's do this. I'm gonna introduce Hannah Stover and Sari Bovitz, who are going to be our first presenters today. Take it on.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen.
Awesome. Okay, so this is our project, Ghostlight Storytelling for Visibility. My name is Hannah Stober, and my partner is Sari Bovitz, and our mentor, our amazing mentor, is Bar 11. Next slide, please. So our mission throughout our project was to use theater as a platform to share stories of everyday sexism and identity-based discrimination that teenagers face. We believe that by telling the stories of discrimination that often tends to go unnoticed, we can raise awareness and affect change. Different identities create different experiences, and for that reason, we really value including a diverse spectrum of people in our project. Then through workshops and conversations, we hoped to create safe spaces for participants outside of Koleinu to share their experiences as well as learn from others. The ideas and stories that we heard in the workshops would then be generated and turned into monologues to be posted online so the public can learn from them.
Oh, sorry. First, before we get to the monologue, we have to talk about how we got to our project. So first of all, this is our Instagram, Ghostlight Story. You can follow it if you want. We used this Instagram to advertise to people our age to see if they wanted to come to our workshop where we had a discussion about identity-based discrimination. And at our workshop ended up being one of the most rewarding parts of our entire process, because we had an amazing conversation about identity-based discrimination. And before the workshop, we created a lesson plan with the help of our mentor to make everyone feel comfortable about talking about their own experiences with discrimination at the workshop. And finally, our future plan for Ghostlight, which is very exciting, we want to use the lesson plan we created for our workshop, and we want to bring it to schools and Jewish camps so that they can have their own discussions about identity-based discrimination. And really, one of the most amazing parts was that this workshop made us feel bonded with each other, with the other participants, and we want other people to have that experience as well. All right, and now here's a small piece of our first monologue generated from our workshop called Boys Club, performed by our friend Sarah Tabak.
was this boy in my physics class who answered a question wrong. I raised my hand and said, "Sorry, can I disagree with you?" And in that moment, I was like, why in the world would I say that? It's not that I disagree. I was trying to say that I know the right answer. And I don't need to apologize for that. Yeah, maybe I apologized because I didn't think my teacher would believe that I was right. I was, though. My physics teacher, who was a guy, would only call on the same group of boys who were almost like his friends. They all did wrestling. He would spend a ton of time showing wrestling videos during class. To me, I felt absurd.
Sorry, I just realized that I cut it off at the wrong place. But you can watch this monologue will be posted on Instagram if you want to watch the rest of it. It's generated from a real story. So now I would like to introduce our next presenters, Orly and Dahlia, who will be talking about their project about periods, amazing project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dahlia.
Hi, I'm Orly. And we are creating a resource about periods called Periods and Me Menstruation Education with our mentor, Michaela Brown.
So initially, we were just talking about addressing the general stigma around menstruation and why people feel uncomfortable when they talk about periods, and how, there's this weird negative connotation that people have with the word menstruation and periods and everything that surrounds it. And we decided to focus on young people because from our own experiences, we've seen that so many young people don't know about periods. They don't know what happens when you get your period. They don't know what to do. They don't know anything about periods before they get them. And then they get them and they are completely confused. And that's a major part of the problem around why we can't talk about periods.
Yeah, so echoing what Dahlia just said, we realized that if we tackle the problem earlier in people's lives, it will have a positive effect later on because it's easier to learn something when you're younger and just grow up with it. And it's also really important to reach people who don't get periods so that they will be less disgusted in the future, because it's sort of easier to understand something when you go through it rather than when you don't go through it.
So from the beginning, we wanted to create a wide variety of videos talking about what a period is, how to deal with the period justice, and organizations that are working toward justice. And then also for people who don't get periods, we wanted to make sure that they knew what a period was and how it worked, but also how to support people who have periods when they don't have periods themselves. So to start off, we decided to start making two videos. One about what is anatomically happening when a person gets their period, and another one about what a kid who has just gotten their period, what do they do when they get their period?
So we're also making a website that's currently in the works that will have all of our videos and also articles that will either be about like tips and tricks for people who get their period, how to help, sort of what the content of our videos, but also period news around the world. So like when period products are, when there's no tax or when they're free, and also, different laws that are passed. So we're really excited for our website.
Yeah, so we're still sort of finishing up our videos, but we hope to publish our videos and our website by the end of June.
We're also working on a webinar with Moving Traditions and author Anita Diamond, talking about her new book, which is about menstruation, and talking about our project. And we're really, really excited for this edition, and it's really exciting that we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, we also really wanted to just thank our mentor, Michaela Brown, who really guided us to this project that we're really proud of and has really helped us focus our very, very broad subject into a really cool thing. So next, we're going to hear from Maya Kendall and Danielle Gruber about their workshop series called Between Me, You, and Us.
Okay, hi, I'm Maya Kendall. And my partner is Danielle Gruber. And for our social change project, we created Between Me, You, and Us. Between Me, You, and Us is a curriculum designed by teens for teens to promote understanding of and discussion around important topics such as exploring personal identity, communicating desires and boundaries, and building healthy relationships. At a fall retreat for Koleinu, we discussed how each of us has experienced discrimination. And while there were some who'd encountered religious or racial intolerance, one common theme among many of us was the discrimination experienced around issues of sex. I'm catcalled every time I leave the house, one person said. He touches me inappropriately and then denies knowing me, another painfully admitted. As we all listened to these experiences, we felt compelled to act. One topic that we thought was important to address before diving into communicating desire and boundaries and relationships was identity and self-exploration. So the students are presented with a genderbread person in order to help explain the concept of gender, sex, and expression. It's really important to us that the students are able to better understand their own identity before they're able to explore themselves with other people. The second session focuses on personal boundaries and communicating desire. The students are able to begin talking about their own desires with each other through an activity in which they share what gives them pure, uncomplicated joy. Also, the students are able to explore their own boundaries through an activity in which they think about a relationship in their own life. In the third session, students begin with a fishbowl discussion about healthy and unhealthy relationships and abuse. As the students watch their peers engage in real-life conversations about abuse, they're able to evaluate their own beliefs and what they've been previously taught about unhealthy relationships. Before the session closes, we thought it was extremely important to include resources for those who are or know someone who's in an abusive relationship. And this is a crucial step to close out the curriculum so that participants have tangible avenues for support beyond the series. And here's an example from one of the activities they do in the third session. Yeah, so having a safe space for teenagers to explore their own identity and practice communicating their desires is incredibly important, as these spaces are not always readily available within the standard high school experience. We also understand how difficult it is for teenagers to be vulnerable in a space that is full of adult leaders, and we want this curriculum to be led by other teenagers in the future. So overall, our curriculum introduces important and often difficult topics in a way that engages our participants and allows for meaningful discussions. So we hope we can offer a more inclusive alternative to existing curricula so what we teach is applicable to any individual and any type of relationship. And we could not have completed this without the help of our brilliant, wonderful, just incredible, I can't think of more adjectives, mentor, Ashley Natanel. We want to thank her for all of the time and effort she invested in our project and in us. And we also want to thank Jen and Moving Traditions for providing us with the resources and support to take on this project. Yeah, and next we're going to pass it on to Sasha and Shoshana to present on their wonderful project, The English Language, the Earth and Sexism.
Hi everyone, my name is Shoshana. I'm a junior from New York City.
Hi, I'm Sasha. I'm a junior from New Jersey. So our social change project is about women, language, and the environment. We knew that we wanted to examine the ways in which the English language serves to oppress women, but of course this is quite a broad topic and it really left us looking for something to zoom in on. So what we ended up doing was looking at how the English language serves to associate women and nature in order to oppress and exploit both.
We wanted to hold some sort of event in which we would teach participants, hold discussion, and learn from the participants themselves. This format is something that we felt really strongly about because we think that the value of discussion and communication of ideas really cannot be emphasized enough. Talking and learning together is how ideas are spread, and these are ideas that we really wanted to be part of spreading. Discussion-based learning also gives participants opportunities to test out new ideas and see how others receive them and make those connections. So our central goal in this project has really been to provide participants at our event with new information and perspectives on how sexism and exploitation of the earth are intrinsically connected and how that exploitation and oppression is carried out through our language. And this is information that we hope that they will then carry on and share throughout their lives.
So we decided to hold this event through the synagogue that we both attend on Zoom, but it's open to everyone and you should all come on June 5th.
And because of this Jewish setting, we wanted to bring a Jewish angle into it. So our fabulous mentor, Jess, connected us with a woman named Sarah, who is very knowledgeable on Jewish texts and biblical history. And she showed us some texts from the Mishnah that discussed women and the environment, which allowed us to look at the language that's used to portray women in the environment throughout these different texts and time periods.
We are so grateful for our mentor, Jess, and our cohort leader, Jen, for helping us along the way, and we are super excited for our upcoming presentation. So now introducing the next group, Pinch Our Petals with Their Fingers, an anthology on gender by Gloria and Foster.
Hi everyone, I'm Gloria.
I'm Foster.
So as they just introduced us, our project is an anthology on gender, and we named it Pinch Our Petals with Their Fingers. That comes from a quote from a poem that from Foster that you will hear shortly.
We included some of our own writing and then also solicited submissions from others. Our idea was to include as many perspectives as possible. And now we'd each like to read a short poem. This is called Roots. They are growing through my fingers, I think, blocking my veins and sprouting through my nails, their roots pricking through my skin, my bones. They start their conquest on one side of my wrist and flow directly through to the other, and I don't mind it, though the shower doesn't do much to slow the dirt that cakes my body, my mind. I am like them. My roots, wrinkled and covered with soil, are buried deep underground, and people call me pretty and pinch my petals with their fingers. I am digestible to them from above, but if they look closer, deeper, they see my ugly, my sharpness, my scars, my truth. They find me hateful, despise me. They do not want me in their garden. They pluck me, not knowing that I will grow back, that you cannot stop an infestation without pulling it up at the roots.
My poem is called Kotel. Name in TBD, actually, but the poem is final. Claustrophobia. As we crept through the tunnels behind and beyond the Kotel, past women wrapped in cloth with little books, praying because they can get closer to the holiest spot in a darkened, humid, secret tunnel, a museum, than they could get in sunlight in the most well-known of holy places. Eventually, we made it deep into the cavernous tunnels and turned around. We burst back into the plaza with bright blue skies and tan limestone imposing. We convened, then went our separate ways. On one side of a wooden fence, the boys tonned tallit and joked about which nice Jewish girl they would marry, with elderly men who pray thanks every day they were not born female. My classmates, frolicking around, were gleeful, ready to come back together, yelling about how cool it was that they got to put on tefillin. Meanwhile, my friends and I pushed and shoved past women weeping, smashed together, all to brush our fingertips against an old wall and shove a Post-it note into the grout between bricks. I emerged from the sorrowful horde of ladies, feeling violated and pushed aside, quite literally. The partition separated the exposed wall, giving the men 75% of this blessed foundation, while we were left with a measly quarter. This space, so incredibly important and sacred to people like me, felt less holy than a rush hour 2 train between Times Square and Penn Station, or the sticky gym where my entire middle school sat on the ground to spend a minute of silence every morning. So thank you, oh holy wall, for opening up my eyes, letting me see how terrible it would be for me had my parents raised me anywhere else. And thank you, universe, for having me born a woman. Even better, a Jewish woman. Eventually, we want to publish our anthology as a book. And we just held a reading, a Zoom reading for some of our contributors. We want to thank our mentor, Kathy, for all of her help with our project, from reading over our poems and introducing us to a publisher to helping us set up a reading and everything. Next on the list, we have Emma and Isabel, and they will be talking about their project, My Body, My Choice.
Hi, I'm Emma, and my partner is Isabel.
Hi, our mentor was Ruth. Jen, if you can go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about our project. So the gist of our project was to create a training for people to be able to pursue their activism and communicate with legislators to make change, specifically in reproductive rights and in reproductive health care. So we narrowed it down to 3 basic steps. Learning about the issue you want to make change in and reading a fact sheet that we made specifically about abortion and healthcare in our respected states. Then you can fill out a template that we created or construct your own email or what you would want to say in a phone call. And then step 3 would be to send that email or make the phone call and set up a time to speak with your legislator in person if that is how you would communicate. We don't yet have a date for our event, but that will definitely, we'll keep everyone in the loop.
Jen, if you could go to the next slide, that'd be great. So first we made a template, and what we did was we included what information you need to write on the template to get it to your legislator. And then there's we included information on different acts and what you should include, such as a personal story and what they should do about it. Jen, if you could go to the next slide. So that would be in an email or whatever. And then to support this, we made fact sheets for both of our states so they can provide this evidence for the legislators. And we also included slides on a Jewish perspective of reproductive rights. So that was what we did. And next we have Finding Feminism, an anthology of women in literature with Maya Gardos, Izzy Lusk, and Samantha Renzulli.
I'm Maya.
I'm Izzy.
I'm Samantha, and this is our project, Finding Feminism.
When I was in 2nd grade, the author of the popular book series I Survived came to my school. Being an avid reader, I was so excited to talk to her. During the Q&A session, I asked her, "Why are none of the protagonists in your books girls?" She readily informed me that while girls were receptive to both male and female characters, boys were often unwilling to read about female characters.
In middle school, I clearly remember almost every single book I read telling the story of a young man or a group of men. And even if there was a story about girls, it often focused a lot on the male character because they were the love interest. And I had to wait until I was almost halfway through high school to read a good story that talked about strong women.
I love writing poetry. I'm inspired by it, and I hope to inspire others. My education has never emphasized poetry written by women. Has any of yours? I had to find Virginia Woolf, Maya Angelou, Sabrina Obermark, and Jane Kenyon all on my own.
When we all met together, we realized something. We hadn't been exposed to enough female stories. Throughout all our lives and all our English classes, the focus had been on men. So we created Finding Feminism, an anthology of women in literature.
This is Finding Feminism. The first thing we did was define feminism and feminist literature. We wanted to encourage people to read and discuss stories from a feminist perspective, focused on women and women authors.
Then we made our collections. From brainstorming a list of over 200 books, we carefully curated our categories. We now have 14 genres from science fiction to poetry, and we aim to find a sample of what it means to be a woman. Then we wrote discussion questions for the books. We will post a link to our to the website in the chat for you to browse and enjoy. We're going to show you, to give you a glimpse of one of our categories, we're going to show you our children's book category.
So after researching and rediscovering books from our childhood, we made this list of children's books focused on the story of young girls. Then we developed discussion questions intended to guide readers through understanding these books. Our questions for all the other collections are still in development, but we'll be continuing to work, so those will all be done soon. We also created a series of general questions meant to guide a constant discussion on feminism throughout the collection, no matter what book's chosen, bringing together women's voices across genres.
We hope that through our collection, groups such as book clubs, libraries, synagogues, and more will be able to learn and engage with women's stories. Please reach out to us directly or at findingfeminismbooks@gmail.com on our Contact Us page if you have any more questions or want to share with us your experience with any of the books we've chosen. We also want to extend so much gratitude to our mentor, Sasha Block, for guiding us through this process and giving us amazing book recommendations along the way.
Through our collections, we hope that you will be pushed forward on your journeys of finding feminism. Thank you so much. And next we have Galia and Cecily with WNBA Fantasy.
Hi, my name is Cecily. My partner is Galia. And before we start, we just wanted to thank our awesome mentor, Haley, who was so supportive and helpful through all of our meetings and also kept us grounded, but also kept the meetings fun. So thank you for that. Okay, so our project is a WNBA Fantasy League. We're both pretty big sports fans in general, as well as fantasy sports players. So through Koleinu, we met and we began discussing our experiences playing in various fantasy football leagues and discovered some commonalities. We had both only played fantasy men's sports and also came to a consensus that fantasy football had enabled us to learn a lot more about football and the specific players in football that aren't necessarily the biggest names, but were really great for our fantasy teams. So because of the lack of fantasy sports available for women's leagues and the gender disparity in mainstream sports coverage, we decided to create our league. So most people have heard of some WNBA players, like, I don't know, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. But since each team in our league has 10 players, people will get to discover and become fans of lesser known players, therefore expanding knowledge of and access to the WNBA.
Yeah, so I'm Galia. I think we started this project because we wanted people to learn more about women's sports and like in the WNBA. I personally didn't even know that much about the WNBA before we started, but as I've been doing this, like I've learned more and more about different players and like who's good, what teams are good, whatever, stuff like that. So I think, so our project had two parts. We have an Instagram page and actual league. So we started the league it started last week and we have 12 teams. So now like 12 people are learning about fantasy or are learning about the WNBA. So the Instagram page, so like it started more regular. We were posting more regularly. Now it's a little less, but it's about like women's sports, the WNBA, and so we we've posted about different WNBA players, different women's athletes, and we've gotten like real people to actually like the posts. Like we did a post about Cynthia Cooper, who was the first WNBA MVP, and she liked the post, so that was very exciting. Yeah, so I also want to thank Haley for her help on the project. Okay.
And then so we just started our league, so I'm just gonna quickly share. Okay, so we did it, that's my school. We did it on a spreadsheet. So we've had to learn a lot about like programming on spreadsheets and like getting it to add stats for us and taking stats from other places. So we're still like tinkering with the formulas. But yeah, so this past week we had our first league. So here's like league one. We split them into two leagues because there's not enough players that play often. So this is team one, and we had these games and there are these winners, and and then this is League 2. And we're starting the first day of week 2 is today. So yeah, we're very excited.
I think we were the last one, so.
Yeah, you are. So wonderful. Now all of our guests, you see how inspiring all of these young feminists are. And I want to emphasize that creating and planning and carrying out a social change project is an immense undertaking. It involves identifying an issue, it involves working with a partner, it involves figuring out how to create an intervention that addresses the issue. And some of that work is not so glamorous. Some of it is sending emails or having brainstorms, or lots of little tasks that add up to something really substantial. So I'd love for everybody to just give a round of applause or snaps to this cohort. And the Western cohort is still finishing up, so we have a little bit of time. I'd love to open it up to any questions or reactions. I want to emphasize that in this cohort, we don't always have the answers to questions, but sometimes asking the question is a really important thing. So yeah, I'd love to hear from all of you.
Nice. I don't have a question. I just want to say that I'm super impressed with everything that y'all have been doing. This is such an impressive group, and these projects are so beyond what I could have possibly imagined. So just kudos to all of you for your hard work.
My turn. Suzanne Feld here. I completely agree with you. These kids, young women, are amazing. Their knowledge is in depth, and their ability to express what they've done over time is phenomenal. It's always wonderful.
Maya, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just want to share how incredible it was to meet all of the fellows and get to know you. And I know how hard it is to try to connect with people online, but genuinely, I think that we made really strong connections. And I hope you all stay in touch, because I can't wait to see what happens. And I'm also really proud of just Koleinu in general, because 4 years ago, when I was a freshman and I joined what was Koleinu, it was so small and it was still a lot of fun, but I couldn't imagine where it is today. And I'm just so proud of all of you.
Hi, this is Stacy Shapiro. I'm so lucky to be able to work for Moving Traditions. And I wanted to say to all of you, after having read some of your applications last year and crying with the sheer joy of what you had already accomplished and who you were at that time, that you have truly just blown me away again with your creativity and your maturity and your inspiration. And I am so impressed, and I am so impressed that you have also found ways to find subjects that even I could never have thought of, to bring a feminist view of things into a different subject. And I thank you. And I hope that you will continue this and take this experience and even these projects with you into your life, into college, and beyond.
I have Suzanne Feld here again. I have to quite agree with what you just said. I have this feeling and understanding that what you young women have done will take you further all the time. And so glad that Koleinu could give you the foundation to move further, because I think this is just the beginning for all of you, and go in health and safety.
Thank you both. Sari, I saw that your hand was raised earlier.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to, again, I mean, all of your projects were so amazing. And I also wanted to express gratitude for this cohort, because I feel like we've really all become a very close-knit group of people, with Danielle and Maya planning an amazing, we had this year, just the fellows in this cohort had a open mic night style event. And it was a really amazing bonding experience. Everyone in this cohort is just such talented writers and activists, and everyone just has their own passions, and it's really amazing to watch all of these people who have become my friends just bloom. And it's been such a delight this year.
And I think you guys are going to stay friends for a very long time, and building on those relationships and on your ideas and on your intellectual curiosities. And may you go, as I just said, in good health, and keep doing it.
I can't agree more with everything that everybody said. I've just had such a great time leading this cohort and seeing all of your work. And I know that it's not, social change is always a process. I know that what you've each started, while incredible, is just the beginning, and is just one project, one piece of activism that you're doing toward the beginning of your lives. And I know that I look forward to seeing the work that I know that each of you is going to do and thrive in doing in the future. So I know I've been in the same position for a little while. It might be time for a little stretch to get up and move around a little bit. Does anybody have a stretch they really like doing? Maybe after being in a chair for a while? See some neck stretching.
I like arm stretches. Ooh.
Yeah.
And two together. And forward. And forward. I don't want to stand up because I don't want to miss everybody's face.
Well, if we stand up a little bit, we can each see everybody's, if you're wearing your cultural.
Yeah, me too. Jewish feminist. May we all be Jewish feminists for a very long time.
Agreed.
Somebody just did a stretch. I saw this. What was that?
Oh,
I think it was Sari. Somebody went like this. Yes.
I should do it.
I was just repeating Suzanne, but it is a stretch. I like it.
You ladies, you young women, everybody don't know me, but I've been very involved in a business on my own as a woman, as a feminist. And with my age, it was very unusual. And I used to sit at a desk for a long time, and I learned how to do a lot of those stretches. So like, they're really important, but more important, and you're going to get tired of me, stretch your brains and your minds and your thoughts and your outreach, which is what you're all doing.
Well said.
Thank you.
I got an update that the Western cohort is on their last presentation. So in a few minutes, we're going to be back.
It's kind of hard to coordinate East Coast, Midwest, West Coast.
It is. Yeah, we're learning. It's a fun, like, second well, we're in the 4th year of the program, but we learn so much each year, and while we encourage the fellows to take different risks and experiments, the program itself is experimenting in different ways. So I'm glad that you're all here.
Well, I also think that with COVID and having to Zoom, I mean, more than meet. I mean, I know we always have a 1-year retreat, but it's created some constraints on what we're able to do. But I think we've also learned from it.
Yeah, we can't. It helps us to break out of the molds that we have been in for years, and figure out that maybe the things that we were doing before weren't all working. Maybe there's a different way.
I'd just like to say, as a parent, I think it's so important for young people, and I'll say young women, but I don't know how everybody identifies. So to have people other than their parents in their life to develop them. And as I said in the chat, we are so grateful to the mentors, to the leaders, to Moving Traditions for creating this opportunity for our daughter and for all of us, because you're developing these young people to come and really make very important changes in the world. So as a parent, I couldn't be more grateful that this program was here. Thank you.